The rain in Seattle didn't just fall. It felt like it was trying to erase the city. It hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Sterling Tower, blurring the glittering skyline into smears of gray and neon. I, Faye Sterling, stood on the 42nd floor, pressing my forehead against the cool glass. My father, the CEO of Sterling Tech, had insisted I stay late to oversee the final merger documents. "It's just paperwork, Faye," he'd said. "Just sign off on the encryption keys." He didn't mention that everyone else had gone home hours ago, leaving the building feeling like a hollowed-out concrete beast. I turned back to the massive oak desk, the only island of light in the dim office. My phone buzzed. Another message from my ex, Julian. "We need to talk. I'm outside." A shiver that had nothing to do with the air conditioning ran down my spine. Julian didn't take breakups well. He didn't take no well. And he certainly didn't take losing his position as VP of Operations well. A decision the board made, not me, though he blamed me all the same. I buzzed the front desk, forgetting the receptionist had left at 5. Silence. "Right," I muttered, gathering my coat. "Just get to the car." I grabbed my bag and headed for the elevators. The hallway was eerie, the usual hum of corporate activity replaced by the low thrum of ventilation. When the elevator doors dinged open, I stepped inside and pressed the button for the parking garage. As the numbers ticked down, I tried to steady my breathing. "You're the heiress to a tech empire," I told myself. "You can handle a walk to your car." But money couldn't buy the feeling of safety, not really. The doors slid open to the B2 level. It was colder down here, smelling of gasoline and damp concrete. My footsteps echoed sharply as I walked toward my reserved spot in the corner. That's when I saw the shadow move. It wasn't a shadow. It was Julian, leaning against the hood of my silver sedan. He looked disheveled, his usually impeccable suit rumpled, rain-darkened hair plastered to his forehead. "Faye," he said, his voice rough. I stopped 10 feet away. "Julian, you shouldn't be here. Your access card was revoked." "I have ways," he scoffed, pushing off the car. He took a step toward me. "We need to fix this. You need to talk to your father. Tell him it was a mistake." "The embezzlement wasn't a mistake, Julian," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the rapid thumping of my heart. "Please just go. Before I call security." "Security?" He laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "There's nobody here, Faye. Just old man Jenkins at the front desk. And he's asleep half the time." He took another step. I took one back. "I'm not asking anymore," Julian snapped, his demeanor shifting from desperate to aggressive. He reached into his jacket pocket. I didn't wait to see what he was pulling out. I turned and ran. "Faye!" he shouted, his footsteps heavy behind me. I sprinted toward the stairwell, fumbling for my phone, but my hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. I rounded a concrete pillar and slammed right into a solid wall of navy blue uniform. Strong hands gripped my shoulders, steadying me. I looked up, gasping for air, ready to scream. "Miss Sterling." The voice was calm, low, and distinct. I looked up into eyes the color of warm amber. It was the new guard. The one I'd noticed a few times over the last month. Quiet, attentive, always standing with a posture that suggested military training. Her name tag read Rain. He's chasing me," I stammered, pointing back the way I came. The guard Rain didn't flinch. She didn't look panicked. She simply shifted her stance, moving me gently but firmly behind her. She was not much taller than me, but she radiated a kind of kinetic energy, like a coiled spring. "Stay behind me," she said. It wasn't a request. Julian came around the pillar, his face red with exertion. He stopped short when he saw Rain. "Move, rent-a-cop," Julian spat, sneering at her. "This is a private conversation." "This is private property," Rain replied. Her voice was terrifyingly even. "And you are trespassing, sir. I need you to leave the premises immediately." "Do you know who I am?" Julian demanded, stepping forward. He pulled his hand out of his pocket. He wasn't holding a weapon, just a crumpled set of keys, but he wielded them like a threat, stepping into Rain's personal space. "I used to run this place. I can have you fired before you blink." "Sir, take a step back," Rain warned. Her hands were open, palms out, a gesture of peace, but her muscles were tense. "Get out of my way." Julian lunged, trying to shove past her to get to me. Whatever happened next happened so fast my brain struggled to process it. Julian reached out to grab Rain's collar. In one fluid motion, Rain deflected his arm, stepped into his guard, and used his own momentum to spin him around. It wasn't violent, exactly, it was efficient. She pinned his arm behind his back and pressed him against the concrete pillar. "Let go of me," Julian howled. Miss Sterling, Rain said, not even breathing hard. Please go to the security booth at the ramp exit. Lock the door. Call the police. I stood frozen. The sheer competence was mesmerizing. But then, Julian kicked backward, catching Rain in the shin. She grunted but didn't let go. He thrashed wildly, slamming his weight back against her. She was strong, but he was heavier. He managed to break her grip, spinning around with a wild haymaker punch. It connected with Rain's cheekbone with a sickening crack. No! I screamed. Rain stumbled back, shaking her head as if clearing buzzing bees from her ears. Julian, emboldened, advanced on her, raising his fist again. I said move. Rain didn't retreat. She wiped a trickle of blood from her lip, her amber eyes narrowing. She didn't strike back. Instead, she ducked his next swing, stepped in close, and executed a perfect takedown, sweeping his legs out from under him. He hit the concrete hard, the wind knocked out of him. Before he could scramble up, she was on him, knee in the center of his back, securing his wrists with a zip tie she pulled from her belt. Stay down, she commanded. She looked up at me. The left side of her face was already swelling, turning an angry red. Are you all right, Miss Sterling? I stared at her wide-eyed. Am I? You're the one who's bleeding. I'm fine, she said, though she winced slightly. Did you call the police? I fumbled for my phone again. Doing it now. The next hour was a blur of flashing blue lights and police statements. Julian was hauled away, shouting obscenities. I gave my statement, shaking in the cold night air, until an officer handed me a thermal blanket. I looked around for Rain. She was sitting on the bumper of an ambulance, waving away a paramedic who was trying to shine a light in her eyes. I walked over, pulling the blanket tighter around myself. You should let them check you out, I said softly. Rain looked up. The bruise on her cheek was blossoming into a vivid purple, stark against her pale skin. Her dark hair, usually pulled back in a severe bun, had come loose, framing her face in soft waves. It's just a bruise, Miss Sterling, she said, trying to stand up. Sit, I insisted. And please call me Faye. You just saved my life. I think we're past formal titles. She hesitated, then sat back down. Faye, then. I'm intense about protocol. Sorry. Don't apologize. Where did you learn to move like that? Marines, she said simply. MP for 6 years. Dealing with angry executives is a walk in the park compared to some things. I looked at her hands, resting on her knees. They were scraped raw from the concrete. Thank you. I mean it. He was unstable. Part of the job, Rain shrugged, looking away shyly. It was a stark contrast to the warrior woman I'd seen 20 minutes ago. I saw him loitering near the entrance earlier. My shift hadn't started, but I had a bad feeling, so I came down early to patrol the garage. I'm glad I did. So am I. My father's limousine pulled up then, screeching to a halt. He burst out, surrounded by his own personal security detail. Faye! I sighed. Here comes the cavalry. A little late. I looked back at Rain. Will you be okay getting home? You can't drive like that. I take the bus, she said. Absolutely not, I said firmly. I'm taking you to the hospital to get that checked properly, and then I'm taking you home. Miss Sterling, Faye, that's really not necessary. You took a punch for me, Rain. Let me be the hero for 5 minutes and give you a ride. A small, genuine smile tugged at the corner of her uninjured lip. It transformed her face, softening the sharp angles. Okay, a ride would be nice. 2 weeks passed. The restraining order against Julian was filed, and extra security measures were installed at Sterling Tower. But I found myself distracted. I couldn't focus on spreadsheets or board meetings. I kept thinking about amber eyes and a navy blue uniform. I hadn't seen Rain since that night. She had taken a few days of medical leave, at my insistence and with full pay, but she was due back today. I found myself checking my reflection in the elevator mirror 3 times on my way down to the lobby. Why are you nervous? I scolded myself. She's an employee. You're just being a conscientious boss. But when the elevator doors opened and I saw her standing by the main reception desk, my heart did a little flip that had nothing to do with being a boss. She was back in uniform, looking sharp and professional. The bruise on her cheek had faded to a faint yellow shadow. She was directing a delivery courier, her posture perfect. I walked over. Officer Rain. She turned, snapping to attention. Miss Sterling. Good morning. I thought we agreed on Faye, I said, smiling. She relaxed slightly, her eyes crinkling at the corners. Right. Faye. Good morning. How are you feeling? Much better. Thank you for the fruit basket. And the paid leave. It was generous. It was the bare minimum, I corrected. Listen, I was wondering if I could buy you a coffee? As a thank you. A proper thank you, not a corporate fruit basket. She blinked, surprised. She looked around the busy lobby. I'm on duty, ma'am. Right. Of course. I felt a flush of embarrassment. Maybe after your shift? Rain looked at me, really looked at me, searching for something in my face. Then she smiled. My shift ends at 6. There's a coffee shop across the street. The one with the good pastries. 6 o'clock, I repeated, feeling ridiculously happy. I'll see you there. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a regular Tuesday night occurrence. Over the next 3 months, I learned that Rain's full name was Lorraine, but she hated it. I learned she loved old sci-fi novels, was terrified of spiders despite being able to disarm a man twice her size, and that she was putting her younger brother through college. I also learned that she was the best listener I had ever met. In a world where everyone wanted something from me, money, influence, connections, Rain just wanted to know how my day was. She listened to me vent about the board of directors with the same intensity she applied to scanning a crowd for threats. One rainy Tuesday in November, we were sitting in a booth at a small diner near the office. Rain was nursing a black coffee, and I was picking at a slice of cherry pie. You look tired, Rain observed gently. Quarterly reviews, I groaned, dropping my head into my hands. My father wants me to fire the head of marketing. I like her. She's got kids. Is she good at her job? Rain asked. She's brilliant. Just unconventional. Then fight for her, Rain said. Simple. Direct. You're the future of the company, Faye. Not your dad. If you think she's worth it, stand your ground. I looked up at her. You make everything sound so easy. It's not easy, Rain said softly. She reached across the table and, for the first time, covered my hand with hers. Her palm was warm, her skin rougher than mine, grounded and real. But doing the right thing rarely is. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I looked down at our hands. My heart was hammering against my ribs, louder than the rain on the roof. I didn't pull away. I turned my hand over, interlacing my fingers with hers. Rain, I started, my voice catching. Yeah, I really like spending time with you. She squeezed my hand. I really like spending time with you too, Faye. No, I mean. I took a breath. I don't want to just be the boss you saved anymore. And I don't want to just be your friend. The silence stretched for a moment, terrifying and electric. Rain's thumb swept gently over my knuckles. I'm just a security guard, Faye, she whispered, a hint of insecurity cracking her usual stoicism. You're everything. You're my hero, I said firmly. And you're the smartest, kindest person I know. I don't care about titles. I care about who has my back. And I know you do. Rain smiled, a slow, radiant thing that lit up the dim booth. Always. I've always got your back. The transition from friends to more was slow and sweet. It was quiet lunches in the park, shared headphones on the bus ride she insisted I try, and long drives on the weekends. But the world outside our bubble wasn't always as kind. 6 months after the incident, the annual Sterling Tech Gala was approaching. It was the biggest event of the year, a black tie affair attended by the city's elite. Everyone expected me to bring a date. Usually it was a business partner or a distant cousin. I want you to come with me, I told Rain one evening while we were watching a movie at my apartment. Rain stiffened. To the gala? Faye, I usually work security at the gala. Not this year. This year you're my guest. People will talk, she said, looking down at her hands. They'll say the heiress is dating the help. Let them talk, I said fiercely. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. I want to show you off. She looked at me, eyes wide. You want to show me off? I don't even own a dress. We can fix that, I grinned. The night of the gala, the ballroom was a sea of diamonds and designer tuxedos. The air smelled of expensive perfume and champagne. I stood near the entrance, my stomach doing nervous flips. I wore a shimmering silver gown, but I felt incomplete. Then the doors opened. Rain stepped in. We had found a suit, a tailored, deep burgundy tuxedo that fit her like a glove. She wore no jewelry, just a simple white shirt and a black tie. Her hair was down, cascading over her shoulders in soft waves. She looked terrifyingly handsome. The room didn't go silent. Real life isn't a movie, but heads turned. People whispered. Who is that? Rain looked uncomfortable, tugging at her cuffs. I walked toward her, ignoring the stares of the board members and the socialites. I reached out and took her hand. You look incredible, I whispered. Rain let out a breath she seemed to have been holding. I feel like an imposter. I keep checking the exits. Old habits, I teased. Just focus on me. Ignore everyone else. We navigated the room together. I introduced her to the mayor, to the shareholders. When people asked what she did, Rain looked them in the eye and said, "I work in specialized security." She didn't apologize for it. And standing next to me, radiating that quiet confidence, nobody dared to question her. Later in the evening, my father approached us. He held a glass of scotch, his expression unreadable. "Faye," he nodded. Then he turned to Rain. "Rain, I didn't recognize you out of uniform." "Good evening, sir," Rain said respectfully, but she didn't shrink away. She squeezed my hand tighter. My father looked at our joined hands. The silence stretched thin. I braced myself for a lecture on image, on propriety. "The security assessment you submitted last week regarding the blind spots in the R&D lab," my father said suddenly. Rain blinked. "Yes, sir? It was excellent. Detailed. I've never had a head of security spot those flaws before." "I'm not head of security, sir," Rain corrected. "No," my father took a sip of his drink. "But Jenkins is retiring next month. And I need someone who actually cares about protecting this company. And my family." He looked at me, a rare softness in his eyes. "You saved her life. I haven't forgotten that." He looked back at Rain. "Come see me Monday morning. We'll discuss the promotion." My father walked away into the crowd. I turned to Rain, squeezing her arm. "I think he just offered me the top job," Rain said, looking stunned. "You deserve it," I beamed. "You deserve everything." The night ended on the balcony overlooking the city. The rain had returned, a gentle drizzle that made the city lights shimmer below us. The noise of the party was muffled behind the glass doors. I leaned against the railing, the cold air refreshing after the stuffy ballroom. Rain took off her tuxedo jacket and draped it over my shoulders. "You'll get cold," she said. I pulled the jacket tight. It smelled like cedar and rain. It smelled like her. "Thank you." We stood in comfortable silence for a long time. "You know," Rain said, looking out at the Space Needle. "When I first started working here, I used to watch you walk through the lobby. You always looked so untouchable, like you were made of glass. And now?" I asked, turning to face her. She turned too, leaning one elbow on the railing. Her amber eyes were warm, full of an emotion that made my knees weak. "Now I know you're made of steel," she said. "But even steel needs someone to watch its back." "Is that a lifetime offer?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Rain smiled, that soft, private smile she saved just for me. She reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, her hand lingering on my cheek. "Affirmative," she whispered. "My watch doesn't end. Not where you're concerned." I leaned into her touch, closing my eyes. We didn't need grand gestures or fireworks. We didn't need to kiss to know what this was. Standing there in the rain, wrapped in her jacket and her protection, I knew I was safe. The day I needed a hero, she had risked everything to save me. But every day since then, she had done something even braver. She had stayed. And that was the greatest rescue of all.